This is a very quiet meeting.
Best meeting ever.
Will it be the fastest? Probably not.
Be right with you. We're having some technical difficulties. Gotta love Zoom. Are you good? You're saved a little. All right. Do you have the file in for the presidency?
You gotta learn sign language, Chris.
Nope. I'm on now.
All right, we can hear you.
Okay, guys, bear with me just a minute. They enhanced my computer. Our IT department at the village enhanced my computer to make it work better. And now I can't open any village documents, so.
What do you want? Come on.
I need my script. I'm an idiot with, it's bad enough when I have it. Can you imagine what it's like when I don't have it?
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, go ahead and get started. I'll join you as soon as I can, okay?
There's a voice that's coming out of the ether here.
It's the night of the grandsons. I'll be with you as soon as I can.
All right, well, take your time,
Okay.
Penny. Bob, can you say the pledge when we get there tonight? If we get there? All right, one last try, guys, and then I'm on my own. Oh, I have an idea. Maybe we should make Bill attend one of these meetings, Rob. Okay, folks, give me 3 minutes and we'll be off and running. It's a quick meeting tonight anyway, right? I see one agreement. That counts as two.
Yes, it does.
Hold on, I'm almost there.
I got a little jambalaya working tonight, so I'm waiting on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, Rob, usually you show up with your dinner on the screen, so we've seen you eat before.
Yeah, not a jambalaya. I'm sorry. Maybe a
That
sandwich.
might be a good look. You never know.
Maybe a sandwich. That's it.
Looks like it's gonna open. I had to verify the file, Rob. We just have to stop this. This is crazy. Come on. I'm glad I dropped $3,000 on this new Mac and bought the fastest, most high-tech one I could find. All right, we're gonna stop this silliness. And so everybody's gonna have to bear with me. Who's our host? Oh, is it Brian, are you our host for this evening?
Yes, I
Welcome.
am.
Lucky you. All right, let's give this a shot. And you guys will have to remind me. John, you're usually good at reminding me when I forget stuff, so please pay close attention tonight.
All right.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Winnetka Village Council regular virtual meeting. for March 16th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to either mute or turn off your electronic devices except the one that you are using to view the meeting with. We'll move forward with Pledge of Allegiance, and Trustee Dearborn will lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bob.
You bet, Chris.
Okay, next is quorum check. Rob, you want to take that?
Sure. I also need to do a quick roll call for attendance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Trustee Apatow,
Here.
Trustee Dearborn,
Here,
Trustee Caladarchi. Not present. Trustee Kripe,
Here.
Trustee Swerk,
Here.
and Trustee Lampier.
Here.
And finally, President Rins.
Sure.
Okay, and then for quorum check, the first meeting in April is Thursday, April 8th. That meeting had been noticed at the beginning of the year to be on Thursday due to the municipal election.
Right, right.
That's on a Thursday. Does that date still work for everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, and then April 13th is the study session and April 20th is the regular meeting. Do all those dates seem to work? Okay, if there's any conflicts, just let me know. Thank you.
Right. Okay, item number 4 is public comment. This is the time of the evening where anyone from the public can address Village Council on anything that they wish to, as long as it is not on this evening's agenda. So, Brian, is anybody out there in the audience who wishes to speak to us on any item that is not on the agenda?
Yes, thank you, President Rins. In the audience this evening, we have 12 people in attendance through the Zoom platform. So for those of you that are participating using Zoom this evening, in order to facilitate an efficient meeting, we'd like to check to make sure that everyone is comfortable raising your hand, which is how you'll be recognized this evening for public comment. So at this time, if everyone using Zoom tonight could please use the Zoom feature, raise your hand and keep your hand raised. We have a few members of the public here this evening still who have not raised their hand. Barry, Kelly, Mickey, and Terry, and Richard, and Louise. If you could please raise your hand for us to show us you're familiar with the feature. Okay, it does look as though we have everyone who's familiar with that feature this evening.
Great.
So at this time, I'm going to lower all hands. And then we will ask at this time if there are any members of the public who'd like to speak for general public comment for matters that are not on this evening's agenda. If you wish to speak this evening, please raise your hand at this time. President Rins, we have 2 members of the public who wish to speak.
Okay.
The first member of the public that I will allow to speak at this time, unmuting, Richard Cates. Mr. Cates, if you can unmute yourself, we'd like to hear from you at this time.
I was concerned that there would not be oral comments. And I'm seeing that we have the ability to address the council. So that takes care of what I wanted to raise now, and I will speak later on as far as an item on the agenda.
Great, thank you, Dick.
The
Next.
next member of the public that I'll unmute at this time is Teresa. Teresa, if you can unmute yourself, we'd like to hear from you at this time.
Hi, thanks, Brian. I have a question regarding some news that came out today in that Governor Pritzker is expected to announce, or he's actually said he's going to, a phased opening to restore Illinois to phase 5. And my question, so that was kind of almost in every newspaper today. So my question is if the village will be modifying their special events position to align with the Illinois plan. Once you know the plan, obviously.
Well, we can't say until we see the plan, Teresa, so we'll have to wait and see what the governor comes up with next.
Okay, so maybe I'm happy to rephrase. Will the village consider revising the special events application process to align?
No.
Okay, so that's really the answer. Okay, and then Brian, just try and expedite going forward. I know, like appropriately how as moderator you go around, I won't have any other comment till the outdoor seating, so don't feel a need to check with me, just to try and expedite the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. Oh. All right, we did public report comments. Do any trustees have, reports. Does any trustee have a report this evening from activities during the past week? Seeing none. Village attorney,
No report tonight.
village manager,
No report this evening.
and village president, I do not have any report this evening. We'll move forward to approval of the agenda. And this is where my president's agenda comes in really handy because I forgot what I'm supposed to say here. Can you remind me, Rob?
I will be happy to. The request would be, does any trustee wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for a separate vote?
Seeing none?
Right? Then you ask for a motion for final form of the agenda.
Right. May I have a motion to approve the final form of the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote?
Trustee Kripe,
Yes.
trustee Lampier,
yes.
trustee Apatoff,
Yes.
trustee Dearborn,
Yes.
trustee Swerk.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. And now we'll move forward to item 7, which is the consent agenda. I'll ask the village clerk to read the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Approval of the warrant list dated February 26th through March 11th, 2021, in the amount of $382,082.66. Resolution number R41, 2021, uniform service contract for adoption. Resolution number R42, 2021, maintenance of water plant raw intake for adoption. Resolution number R43, 2021, allowing outdoor dining and liquor service during COVID-19 emergency, and approval of outdoor seating permits.
Great. Thank you, Rob. I heard Teresa say that she had public comment, and I don't know how that works with items on the consent agenda.
You could take it now or you could take it after.
All right, Brian, why don't you go ahead and see if Teresa's interested in sharing her thoughts on the outdoor seating permits?
Teresa, we have brought you into the room. If you have any further comment on the outdoor seating, we'd like to hear from you at this time.
Did we cover that agenda item?
It's on consent, Teresa. We're not going to have any further discussion on it. We're just going to
Oh,
vote.
okay. Okay, great. Okay. So I just have one clarification and 2 questions. The one clarification is on page 70 where it lists my tables and chairs. It says 16 and 24, meaning 16 tables and 24 chairs. It's actually 16 tables and 64 chairs, same as last year. 16 tables with 4 chairs apiece.
Okay.
Okay.
That's just a net, no big deal. And then my first question is, if these are approved, does that intimate that then the folks that requested, street closure, like dates and times, that means those are also approved?
Yes.
It does? Okay, very good. Thank you. And then my last question is, and I'd like you to kind of just to hear me out a bit because it's well intended. I'm wondering if that for my request for 2022 is if the this review process could happen at the February meeting. I think a big strength of the village businesses, in particular on bias West Elm, is that a couple of us have different niches, right? So one restaurant brings in garage bands, one brings in a piano bar, singer, I don't know if that's the correct word for her. And my niche is for 2021 is to bring in brewmasters and other people who can, beer distributors who can talk craft beer geeky stuff. And, so after receiving the information on February 4th, I reached out with a question, kind of figure out if I need to submit something. And it's a question I've asked before, nobody's received the answer yes. And, not having any communication at all until March, and then receiving the answer no, really blew up the financial planning, because to get people out of the city to Winnetka, where they can, the city bounce from 3 to 4 places, you have to make product commitments and purchase commitments. And if the answer had been yes, like it was multiple times before, I would have had to have hired and I had interviews set up. And so like the liquor license application, which is annual, this is executed every year. And then I just think that, and then a new requirement being added at March to the process, I just am requesting if we could do this in February so there's not a fire drill. And I don't know that there will be different needs next year for myself or a new business. I have no idea, but I think that there's plenty of time to execute this in a more, a little bit sooner and maybe there's a different reason that within the village, maybe your February agenda is all booked. I don't know that, but that's my request for consideration.
Well, you can see that it isn't a matter of the agenda being booked, because we were ready to pass it without any conversation. So, but I'll bring it up with Rob and see if we can maybe put it on the calendar for a little earlier, Teresa.
So I would appreciate that, because like other businesses, what's on here, it's always been approved. So that's not the issue. You kind of move forward like everyone else. But the request, which was told no when multiple times before it became yes, you can't wait till March 16th to start planning that when outdoor season starts April 1st.
Understand.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. All right, so we've heard the public comment on the consent agenda, so I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Dearborn,
Yes.
trustee Swerk. Sorry, trustee Swerk.
Yes.
Okay, trustee Apatow,
Yes.
trustee Kreip,
Yes.
trustee Lampier.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving along, we'll move to item 8, which is ordinances and resolutions. Our first item is ordinance number M7 2021, North Shore Barber Special Use 1081 to 1083 gauge. This is up for adoption and potential, for introduction and possible adoption. Plan Commission gave this a positive recommendation of, I believe, 5-0 at their recent meeting. And since I don't have my cheat sheet in front of me, I'll let David Schoen take it from here.
It's coming into the room here momentarily.
Good evening. Yes, so we have an existing barber shop that would like to expand into the space next door. They're going to go from 3 chairs to 4 chairs in total. The main reason for the expansion is they want to have a larger waiting area so they can properly social distance with their clients. And as President Rentz indicated, the Plan Commission has unanimously recommended approval of the special permit, which would allow them to expand. And that's all I have.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for David? Lively bunch tonight. Okay. Can we see if there's any public comment relative to this issue, Brian?
Okay, at this time, members of the audience, we have 10 members of the audience still in attendance this evening. If you have any comment on this matter, please use the Zoom platform to raise your hand at this time. President Rentz, none of the members of the public have raised their hand.
Okay, so we will close public comment and move on to other comments. Anybody have any thoughts on this application?
My only thought is that I'm in favor of waiving introduction and introduce and adopt.
I see Bob nodding his head. Penny, you got any problems with it? Rob looks okay. Andy? Okay, good.
It's a good business. I don't have much use for them, but it's a good business.
I've always wanted to stop in there, but I'm somewhat married to my current hair cutter, so maybe someday. All right, well, we've heard David's report. We don't seem to have anything much to say about it, so I'll ask for a first for a motion to waive introduction of ordinance number M7 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Swerk,
Yes.
trustee Apatow,
Yes.
trustee Dearborn,
Yes.
trustee Kreip,
Yes.
trustee Lampier.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. And now I'd like a motion to adopt ordinance number M7 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Swerk,
Yes.
trustee Apatow,
Yes.
trustee Dearborn,
Yes.
trustee Kreip,
Yes.
trustee Lampier.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you very much, and up to the barber shop. All right, item B is ordinance number MC 2021, demolition delay and building size bonus for historic homes, and this is for adoption. If we all remember correctly, last time around, we took considerable public comment and had a public hearing on this item. Some suggestions were made by members of the public, I believe it was Scott Myers, to consider an opportunity for any applicant who is dissatisfied with the final determination of the LPC can then appeal that determination to Village Council, which appears that it's been rolled into the ordinance. David and Peter, I'll turn it over to you and let you take it from there.
Yes, as President Rentz indicated, we did amend the ordinance where there are 3 circumstances where an applicant can appeal to the Village Council. 2 of those would occur during the demolition review process, and the third would be during the maximum building size bonus process. Be happy to answer any questions regarding what we've outlined in the ordinance as the process. And that's all I have to add this evening.
Great. Does anybody have questions for David or Peter at this point on the council? Penny?
Yeah, I do. I was wondering, per one of the letters to this effect, in terms of having parallel process and structure to our other boards. Is this a parallel construction in terms of the appeal process?
Can you help us out with this?
I couldn't with that.
Relative to
The zoning, for example, for a zoning decision, in terms of administrative appeal, is this a similar type process that, or I should say, is the process the same as in terms of how the appeal works to the village council, or is this structured differently?
It's similar, but Chris, were you asking me to comment?
Yes, please.
Okay. With regard to zoning matters, there are certain limited circumstances where the PCZBA has final authority for minor types of variations and zoning relief. I think a majority of what the PCZBA does is as a recommending body. And as you know, in those cases, they hold a public hearing, make a recommendation, and that recommendation goes to the village board. So in one respect, in being a recommending body, it's not truly an appeal to the council, whereas here in this proposed ordinance as directed by council, the appeal process we put in allows the LPC to make a decision that is final unless it is appealed. That is not the case for the PCZBA, where the only thing they can do on a lot of their petitions is to make a recommendation.
So in terms of the types of decisions that they do have final decision authority, what are the circumstances in which that can be appealed to the council?
Those cannot be appealed to the council. Those have to be appealed to court.
Oh, okay. Huh.
What are you getting at, Penny?
In terms of the question about, why would the LPC be different in terms of what they would have final jurisdiction over relative to the other boards. But relative to the zoning board, that would be those. Peter, if you can just run through us for the public's sake and to make sure that I have it clear. For the zoning board, the types of decisions that are not appealable or are not recommended, but would be final decision to the village council would be what?
Actually, David may have a better handle on those situations than me.
Okay, thanks.
So in terms of the ZBA, there are specific, and it's all on the degree of the variation that's being requested. So the ZBA has authority to grant certain smaller variations without having it to go to the village council. And so in those instances, once they make their decision, an applicant would have to appeal to the court regarding that decision. Any new home that's requesting a variation, those have to come to the village council. So in that instance, they're only a recommending body.
Okay.
There is another instance, the design review board, their decisions, they make final decisions in terms of certificate of appropriateness. Those can be appealed to the village council. Those decisions can be appealed to the village council.
And the quote unquote de minimis types of appeals, is there relative to FAR, is there a percentage under which it would be?
Are you referring to the zoning administrator's decisions?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the
Yes.
zoning administrator's decisions, I believe, are appealable to the ZBA.
Oh, okay.
There's an appeal mechanism to the ZBA.
Yeah, and it goes to the ZBA and then they would have the final decision. Okay.
You're muted, Chris.
Thank you, John.
That was Peter.
Oh, but John was giving me the. Each enabling ordinance, I looked at it a little, and each enabling ordinance is fundamentally different from the other one because each body has I think they had an imagined role when village council created it. So The only parallel I can see is the certificate of appropriateness as far as when one body might do one thing and council might, when the applicant can then appeal and come to village council as a second action.
Got it.
Other questions?
I'm gonna wait till after more public comment, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine. We'll go ahead and open this up for public comment then. Brian, get ready to go. You got a big stack of people in there. Let's hear what they have to say.
Yes, President Rintz, we have 9 members of the public who are in attendance still at this time. So for all of you in the public, if you could please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window if you have any comments that you would like to make on this matter at this time. Okay. At this time, we have, and we may get more, we have one member of the public who would like to speak. I will recognize, the first person I'll recognize is Louise Holland. And Louise, if you can unmute yourself, we can, there we go.
I'm unmuted.
We can hear you.
We can hear you, Louise.
Now we can't. Unmute yourself again. There you go.
How's that? Okay.
Perfect.
I wish to thank President Rintz for his call this afternoon. I was at the meeting on March 2nd. Unfortunately, I was attached to the webinar and I could not speak, which my family would probably tell you that was a blessing. But I heard the entire meeting and sat through the entire meeting and was very gratified by the way the council dealt with this problem. And I wish to thank the village council, to thank Peter Friedman, the community development staff, and of course, the members of the Landmark Preservation Commission. I have been the chairman of that commission for 15 years. And that's a lot of frustration when you have a very pleasant ordinance, but pleasant is not the word that you're always looking for. The ordinance was drafted in 1987. Clarine Hall was the village president and Jean Bradner was the next president. These were women that were very, very familiar with the historic value of so many of the homes in the village. It's very frustrating, and I'll use the word again, over the years to see so many very special architectural homes demolished for the ordinance just didn't do the job. And I know I have been on President Rintz's neck about this for a long time. And I was very, very happy to see the study session 2 weeks ago. Thank you to all the residents that have supported the changes to the ordinance. And thank you really to the people that have served on this commission, because you know you do what you can. You have people that know the subject backwards and forwards, and yet sometimes you cannot get the results you want. So I think with the help of all of you, you have gotten the result of a very, very good ordinance. And I think it'll help Winnetka, it'll help the LPC in the future, and we'll have fewer of the phone calls that we would receive from people, from neighbors who said, how can you tear down this house? It has value to it, has history to it. And again, thank you. And I was at the March 2nd meeting. I just, something's wrong with my computer also. And today was a real challenge getting it to work. So,
Well, just so well, Louise, now you know that I was taking attendance.
thank you.
All right, any other comments, Brian, from individuals? Oh, Brian looks like he's a little tied up right now.
Sorry about that. At this time, I'll make a second call here to see if we have any other members of the public who'd like to speak on this matter. If you could raise your hand at this time.
Hey, Brian, Dick's hand was flashing. Dick Cates.
I did notice that it went up and down.
Okay.
We do have one member of the public, Beth Ann. Beth Ann, I've unmuted you. If you have any comment you'd like to add at this time.
Hi, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for all of your time and effort in conducting the study sessions and entertain and just hearing all of the comment about this matter from the public. I know it's required a lot of time and effort. As you know, so for so many years, the Winnetka Landmarks Preservation Council members have listened to the complaints and concerns of our neighbors, and acknowledging that so many historic and architectural significant homes have been torn down. You've heard their comments. Winnetka is such a beautiful village, and it's a travesty to lose such special properties that are significant to the architectural character of our community. This discussions prior to the village council meetings, in prior village council meetings, have really been productive. The increase in time delay for demolition, as well as the incentives and zoning regulations and the aforementioned 20% increase of FAR on a case-by-case basis, would significantly help encourage preservation as opposed to demolition of historic and architecturally significant properties in our community. I just want to reiterate that all vintage properties in Winnetka are not necessarily considered historic and architecturally significant. It's really only a small number that qualify for this status. And when members of Winnetka Landmark Preservation Commission carefully evaluate each demolition permit presented to us at monthly meetings. Throughout this process, we consider the recommendations of Winnetka Historical Society, Landmarks Illinois, and neighbors' testimonials. We only implement the measures of our ordinance requiring an HAIS, Historic Architectural Impact Study, and the issuance of delay for demolitions for a select few properties that have been deemed historic and architecturally significant by experts and neighbors. There are so many properties in Winnetka that don't fall into this category and receive permission for demolition immediately. In Winnetka, there is ample opportunity for new construction as well as architectural preservation. Thank you again for addressing this matter. It's been a long time coming. Approving the results of the vote incurred on March 2nd is very instrumental in preserving the beauty and character of Winnetka. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment to Winnetka.
President Ritz, Louise Holland has raised her hand. I want to double check and see if she has. President Ritz, you're muted.
I'm going to quit.
I lowered my hand, Brian.
Okay, I would like to hear from Richard Cates first.
Okay. Mr. Cates, I've unmuted you. If you have any comment at this time, we'd like to hear from you.
He's muted.
Mr. Cates?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. The fact that this issue came up was a surprise to me. The Tower Road neighbors that have broadcasted it. I tuned into the meeting on the second in the middle, and that raised a concern of mine. There are basically two concerns. Concern number one is, at that meeting, it was discussed that there are a finite number of properties that would be in this category and would be affected by this ordinance. My concern is that the owners of those particular properties should have been or could have been notified and made input in here. If you know what they are, you know where they are, and letters could be sent to them. They may not, they may be in favor of the ordinance. They may have reasons particularly to make input on the ordinance. So where I'm going is, I think it would be appropriate to send letters to those people who would be affected. Now, I know the ball is rolling down the street and has gathered momentum. And it's going to be hard to say, okay, send out letters now. And I know that you as trustees have discretion. You know, you're elected to use your discretion. The point being that part of the use of discretion is to have input of those affected. So I make that one suggestion and hope that the ball hasn't gone too far down the street. The second point is the human factor. In listening to the comments last week from the middle, there were things about the realtors here and whose advantage there. But you've got the human factor beyond the property factor, and the human factor is a very important factor. I've heard people who've had these historic houses, they love them, they wanted to restore them, and it's turned out to be an absolute impossibility economically to do it. And they, too much to their sadness, has had to go the demolition route. People cannot plan for emergencies. There are deaths, there are hospitalizations, there's need to finance college educations, there's loss of a job, there's loss of the people being job transferred, and other reasons that create economic emergencies from the human factor for people to deal with their historic homes that would affect their very livelihoods and their ability to carry on their lives. And to that end, I would like to suggest that there be an emergency category placed in this ordinance to permit people who have true emergencies to bring those emergencies directly to the village council so that the human factor can be considered. Yes, we have our historic homes. Yes, they're important, but the homeowners and the human situation is important. And the structure of the various committees, et cetera, are structures set by the village council. So the structures don't stand in the way of an emergency appeal to the council. So what I'm asking you to consider is adding an emergency path. So if somebody from the human factor has a true emergency, they can bring that to the village council instead of being tied up for such a long period of time. So that's my suggestion, and thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Dick, one thing I wanted to clarify for you is that, you know, there was this opinion that there was very few homes that would be affected by this ordinance. We haven't, or the village hasn't, taken any steps to actually identify any structures as pertaining to this delay. It really comes out of the HAIS, which is usually ordered by the Landmarks Commission once a request for a demolition comes along. So, you know, we talked a lot about potentially going out there and surveying the homes, but that didn't seem to have any traction with the council.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, anybody else out there? Or is Louise's hand still up?
Louise's hand is still up. And I will also at this time make a general call to other members of the public, a last call. If you have any matter, if you'd like to speak this evening, please raise your hand.
Thanks, Brian. All right, Louise.
You know, I sent a number of you this afternoon kind of a smart aleck remark that there seems to be a blinking light in my house that says, buy a new computer, buy a new computer. I can see that tonight that may be a necessity. My computer says lower hand. My hand is lowered. If I lower it, it just doesn't work. I said what I had to say, and I truly thank you for the years of hysterical the times that we were not able to save certain houses, and now hopefully we will. There was an effort to in probably 1991 to identify all those historic homes, and that was not something the village wanted to do. And by village, I mean the residents. Some people were happy their houses were on the 300 number list, and some residents were very unhappy and insulted their houses were on the list. So the suggestion that we send letters to the village is not something that can be done. And I just think we should let this ordinance work for a while, and I'm sure it'll be very helpful to the LPC. And as Beth Ann said, I think last year there were over 100 requests for demolition, and only 7 actually needed HAIS definition. So thank you again, and I'm going to get a new computer. It says lower hand. I lowered my hand. Now it says raise hand. Can't win.
Thank you, Louise.
President Rintz, there are no other members of the public who have their hand raised.
Thank you. All right, we'll bring it back up to council. 2.5 hours of study session, 90 minutes on the first village council meeting. I hope there isn't a lot more to say on this, but the floor is open, guys.
I'll put my 2 cents in.
Sure, John.
You guys, I think you guys all know where I stand. What was very interesting, what Louise just mentioned, was that maybe it was 1999 she referred to, something about making a list, and people were upset if they were on that list. Well, that's really, at least there was a list at that time planned. I don't know the details about it because I just heard that. So it's kind of like if they were on that list back then and complaining about it, now we're trying to sneak one in under the radar without them knowing about it. So, on the big public rights issue on this whole process. And I also came across the 2019 caucus survey that said, how strongly do you agree with the following statement? The village should extend the time permitted for the village to review historic homes, 50 years or older, demolition permits from 60 to 120 days. 40.505% somewhat agreed or strongly disagreed, and 15% had no opinion. If you add that up, that's 55%. If I remember right, when I was slated through the caucus, I told the caucus, or agreed to the caucus, oath or whatever it was, that I would abide by the public input that the caucus provides with the planks and the surveys. So it really seems like we're going against the public comments from 2019. So again, as a trustee, I'm just trying to stick by public rights and what people thought in 2019. I'm done. It looks like I'm the negative here, but we're really going to come back to haunt us and going to upset a lot of people when they try to sell a house, especially like Mr. Cates mentioned, in an emergency. And I noted that last time. If for some reason someone has to sell their house in an emergency, a death, a divorce, whatever it might be, they go to sell their house to try to cash out. If their house comes up on its HIIS, they might have to wait close to a year for a closing and find somebody willing to buy it to wait a year. And that could also decrease the price of the house. So I really think this is an unfair thing to do. I think we should wait and get more input when we go through the 2040 plan. Thanks.
Hey, John, I just want to briefly say, and then I'll shut up, Rob. I did cite that caucus survey and I gave the exact numbers in our last meeting.
Okay.
It's not 50% are opposed to it. When you break it down, there's like a certain percentage that really could care less. And then of the group that was in favor, it was slightly more than the ones that were opposed. And my point on the whole thing was, you're never going to get a consensus on this issue. So we just have to do what we think is right. But Rob, I know you were going to speak.
No, that's a great point, Andy. I appreciate you bringing that back up, and you brought it up last week. I think we've done we have as a village council have done a exhaustive review and taken in the input of the last 30 years. You look at the calls that have been here, I think counting tonight, I think the number is like 40 to 10 in favor and 8 or 9 opposed. Another 8 or 9, I think 8 were real estate people or developers that had other interests potentially as well, and 2 were from out of our village. I think this is thoughtful. I think Scott Meyer's comment on this, I think, was another thoughtful way to make sure that we are doing our best to address the village and give residents every chance that we can to make sure that it is a fair hearing. I think we've seen this kind of run unabated for 30 years. And I think we've taken a really important step forward for the village to preserve it. And, I think we've gotten to a point tonight. I think there are a lot of people very excited about it in the community. So thank you all for your patience through this and making sure this will get through. Thanks.
Anybody else?
I just would like to comment about a couple of things. One is relative to the caucus surveys. After having been on the caucus twice and the executive committee of those caucuses back in the 1990s and then again in the 2010s, and then having been on local boards 3 separate times, I feel very strongly that I support the caucus and the survey, and I think it serves a really important function, but I've always taken the position that the function of the caucus survey is to inform the boards about what the temperature of the public opinion is. And that should be a starting point that the boards take for their deliberation. It's then up to the boards to look into these issues and find out what's behind public positions, and then it's the board's responsibilities to make a responsible decision on behalf of the community. By nature of what the caucus survey is, it can only give very limited information, and it seeks information in a very limited capacity. So people, can only respond in a very limited way. So again, I think it's important that we take it as a starting point and then do our research from there. So I feel like we've been responsive to the platform and take seriously the concerns that people have. But I think that this is a well-developed piece of legislation that that both addresses concerns and then tries to provide incentives for people to purchase significant homes and to renovate it. So I think it's different than what's been done in the past, because there is an effort to incent renovation and to make these historic homes continue to be part of the fabric of our community. So I would support the final vote.
Thanks, Penny. Anybody else?
Chris, just briefly, I've already spoken long and windy on this, so I won't say much more than to say the study, 105 houses over 5 years for demolition. Of those, 22, I believe it was, were recommended for an HAIS, and out of the HAIS, 7 got the 60-day delay. So the number of houses in Winnetka that would likely be affected by this is pretty small. And I think that I think in an emergency situation or something like that, I think it's a very, very small possibility that we'll actually hit that circumstance. So I'm not going to repeat myself on those arguments. And the other thing is that the comprehensive plan is coming up, and this is to get us from now to the comprehensive plan, when we'll be able to take a very deep look at this and come up with a very comprehensive solution to the problem. So I'm in favor of the ordinance and voting yes, and I think we ought to push on.
Sounds good. Anybody else?
I'll make one last comment. I promise the last one. I agree with Penny said that, as trustees, we're here to make the best decisions for the intent of the village constituents. The decision you guys we're looking at making tonight is not responsible action for property owners. And that's kind of my discussion. Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, look, there's one thing I wanted to kind of bring up here, the little undertone. There is no such thing as a negative point of view or discrediting people's opinions because of their professional bias. I mean, we all come to the table with different opinions because we come from different places, and the idea is that we come to the table and sometimes we all agree and sometimes we disagree. It doesn't make us wrong. It doesn't make us bad. It doesn't make us biased. It just makes us people who are talking about a subject that is somewhat controversial. Sometimes it's 5-1 and John's on the 5, and sometimes it's 5-1 and John's not on the 5. That's okay, because that's what good government and that's what doing this job as a trustee is all about. It's about representing what you believe are the beliefs of the people in your community, and then taking the time to think about it and bring it to the table. Sometimes people will share that opinion, sometimes they won't, but I really want to avoid painting or characterizing any opinion that isn't consistent with an action we're going to take as being somehow less valid than what seems to be the predominant opinion. We need to be accepting of each other and just understand that when it comes to some of these contentious issues, it's going to be a lot of opinions. And I think we've done a wonderful job navigating this in a relatively short period of time and have allowed plenty of opportunity for conversation and the opportunity to change people's minds. But this is where we're at tonight. So I don't have anything else to say on this, but I would like to see if somebody has a motion to introduce, hold on, let me make sure I get this right. Introduce ordinance number, introduce.
Adopt.
It's adopt, because we introduced it last time.
Correct.
You see, if we were in council chambers right now, I'd have Friedman and Bayhan both kicking me under the table, telling me to shut up.
And Chris, I had a note. Last meeting was the public hearing. I don't know if we officially closed that public hearing.
I did.
Just, okay.
That much I made sure of.
All right, just to make sure. Thanks.
So, okay. Anyway, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance MC 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Apatow,
Yes.
trustee Dearborn,
Yes.
trustee Caladarchi,
Yes.
trustee Kripe,
Yes.
trustee Swerk,
No.
trustee Lampier.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That motion carries, and thanks to all the people that put hard work in on both sides of the discussion. Really appreciate it. All right, item number 8C. Resolution number R39, 2021, historic maximum building size, application fees and escrow. And this is also up for adoption. So I'll let David go ahead and, or Rob or whoever, and do your explaining on this one.
Sure. Go ahead, David.
Just quickly, to cover the village's expenses for processing this new application process that we have created. We have an established fee for that. That fee is comparable to what we collect for the Landmark Preservation Commission's review of a demolition permit. And then we've also, as part of the review of a project that is found to be historic, when they go to make changes, if we need assistance at the staff level in evaluating those changes from a historic preservation perspective, we're also establishing an escrow amount that we would have available to pay for that expert assistance. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on what we've proposed for the fee and escrow amount.
David, could you just state the 4 fees that are being contemplated in this for the folks in the audience?
Sure. The first 2 fees relate to the maximum building size application. One is to conduct a preliminary property history study, and that fee is $550. That would cover both historical society expenses and village expenses related to the preparation of that document. And then there's the maximum building size bonus application fee. Again, that covers village expenses and historical society expenses of $300. The escrow amount that would be for the review of administrative review of an alteration or addition would be $1,500. And then if someone should appeal a Landmark Preservation Commission decision, there is a fee for that of $250.
Gotcha. Questions for David?
Yeah, I have a question, and it's the appeal. If there is that, for example, with the DRB, is there a fee to appeal that?
There currently isn't a fee to appeal that. There are fees to appeal the zoning administrator's decisions and the building official's decisions. The amount we're proposing for this is less than that, but a lot of the work would have already occurred at the LPC level. So we feel the reduced fee amount is appropriate.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I mean, that obviously it's based on what you all think would cover it. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Seeing that there's no other comment, do we want to go to public comment on the fee structure? Brian.
President Rentz, we do still have 9 members of the public in attendance. So for those folks who are in attendance still this evening, if you have any comments on resolution R39 and the village's fee structure related to preservation initiatives, if you have any comments, please raise your hand at this time. I'm seeing no raised hands, President Rentz.
Thank you. All right, we'll move forward. Would anyone like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number MC2? Wait a minute. Help me out here.
Sure. R39, 2021.
Oh, R3920. Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt that?
So moved?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Lampier,
Yes.
trustee Kripe,
Yes.
trustee Caladarchi,
Yes.
trustee Swerk,
No.
trustee Dearborn,
Yes.
Trustee Apatow.
Yeah.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Item number 9, old business, there is none. Item number 10, new business, there is none. There are no appointments this evening. There's no closed session this evening, so we are at that favorite time of the evening, item number 13. Would anybody like to make a move to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote.
Trustee Dearborn,
Yes, sir.
trustee Kripe,
yes.
trustee Caladarchi,
Yes.
trustee Swerk,
Yes.
trustee Apatow,
Yes.
trustee Lampier.
Yes.
That motion carries and we stand adjourned. Thanks, guys. Good work tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see-
Good
Thanks.
job, John.
We'll see you next.
Okay. Yeah, golly.
Good night.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
You too.
Bye.